A good Erev Shabbos, everyone. Today's learning is for Refuah Shlema for Ari ben Nama, B'soch Shar Choli Yisrael. Should have Refuah Nefesh, Refuah Haguf, and you should have a Refuah Shlema speedily. Amen. Beginning of this week's Parshas Shlach. Rashi points out that look at last week's Parsha. The end of last week's Parsha was the story of Lashon Hara, of the gossiping, the speaking bad about Miriam speaking about Moshe. And then the beginning of this week's Parsha is the Meraglim speaking bad about the land of Israel. And that the reason why the two Parshas are next to each other is because the Meraglim didn't learn the lesson of Miriam. That the spies didn't look back and see what happened to Miriam when she spoke Lashon Hara, and they should have been then more careful about speaking Lashon Hara about the land of Israel. I want us to wonder that why are we pinning crime upon crime on the Meraglim? How are they supposed to look at the story of Miriam? I mean, this one, you can let them go on this one, because how are they supposed to look at the story of Miriam, which is speaking Lashon Hara about a person, and then understand that in the context of speaking Lashon Hara about the land? It's a hard extrapolation to make. You have to really understand the subtleties of life in order to be able to see the connection between the two, and then to take a lesson from it and to improve your life because of it. So it's very interesting. If you take a look at the first three words of the Parsha, it says, Shlach lecha anoshim. God says to Moshe, send for yourself people. The Baal HaTurim makes a strange comment there. He says, if you look at the word Shlach lecha anoshim, the last three letters, the last letter of each word spells the word chacham. Shlach lecha ches chaf. And anoshim mem chacham. Shkoich. What's that? Chacham. Because that's what this Parsha is about. This Parsha and the crime of the Meraglim was a lack of Chachma. Because what is real Chachma? Ultimately, what is real Chachma? Ezu Chacham haroas hanolad. Haroas hanolad means somebody who is able to see what has not yet transpired in the world, what has not yet come. In other words, a person who can really play chess with life and say that if I move here, then that's going to happen over there. And if I do this, then that's going to happen over there. Why is that a Chacham? That's a perceptive person, because that's what Chachma is. Chachma is perception. It's an ability to be able to see beyond the surface, to be able to recognize what's really going on, to be able to look at something and to understand it for what it is, to be able to see things in an objective kind of way and not in a subjective way, not to see things and wash things through myself, but to see them for what they are. And now let me analyze them. Are they good? Are they bad? Are they beneficial? Are they not beneficial? But let me look at them in an honest kind of way. And the problem with the Meraglim was that they weren't honest. The problem with the Meraglim was they were missing Chacham. They were missing Chachma. They were missing wisdom. They had an agenda. They had a preconceived notion. They had an idea of what they were going to find, and they wanted to find it that way. And therefore, whatever they saw was going to fit into that agenda. They saw tremendous fruit. So with an agenda, this was a strange land. So there was strange fruit. It wasn't amazing fruit. They saw funerals, people dying and burying all over the place, and looked at it and said, oh, you see, it's a land that it eats inhabitants, as opposed to, wow, God set a pick for us. He set a smoke screen so that we can get through this land without anybody noticing us. But they saw it negatively because they walked in jaundice. They walked in negative because they had a negative agenda. It was already in their minds. They had no ability to look deeper and to analyze and say, look, if there are all these funerals here and there are so many people coming out to funerals, if these funerals happened all the time, people wouldn't be coming to funerals anymore. It would just be commonplace. You wouldn't have this. It looked like terror in the country. It looked like people were going crazy. It could only be that this was some crazy event that was happening. But if you're not a chacham, if you're not open and honest, if you're not thinking, you don't see that. You're not roas hanola. You don't understand the ramifications of things because you have an agenda. Your eyes are closed tight. Because we see what we want to see. We hear what we want to hear. We believe what we want to believe. Rav, the Gemara tells a beautiful story. Rav was in prison, and the guy next to him understood the language of the birds, and so did Rav. A bird flies by and says, Ilish brach, Ilish brach, Ilish, you have to run away. So run away from the Romans. Romans are going to kill him. So Rav said, no, I think it's bird language. So then another bird comes by and says, Ilish brach, and this time it's a dove. And he turns to the guy next to him and he says to him, what did the bird say? He says, Ilish, run away. Ilish run away. So Ilish said, oh, it's a good sign. It means that it's a dove. So it means I'm going to have a miracle. Great. and Elish ran away. So Rav Elish understood the birds. He knew what the bird said. He was like, Dr. Doolittle, whatever. He understood the birds. So why did he need to turn to the guy next to him and say to him, what did the bird say? Because Rav Elish also knew that he had an agenda. He wanted it to be that he was going to be saved. He wanted miracles to happen. He wanted to make sure. He wanted it in his mind. He was dreaming of that. And therefore he knew that he was going to hear the bird say, Elish Brach, it's all going to be okay. He wanted that so badly that he was afraid that was what he was going to hear, even though that wasn't what was being said. And that's why he turned to somebody outside of himself and he said, confirm that for me. What did that bird say? And when he heard the other person say it, now he could believe it because that person had no agenda. That was the sin of the Meraglim. That they didn't look deeper in things. That they didn't look at Miriam and understand what was the problem with Miriam. What was the story of Lashon Hara with Miriam? It wasn't about a lady speaking about a brother. It was about being forbidden, about being negative, about seeing the negative. Even if Miriam loved her brother and she wasn't so emphatic about her negativity, but it's because she had a certain vision of her brother, a certain vision of the facts that she was fed, and she had a negative twist on it. That's what came out of her mouth. And that is where Lashon Hara comes from. It's not the Lashon Hara itself that's the problem. It's the negativity that's the problem. And that the Meraglim should have been smart enough to learn. That's why the first thing that the Baal HaTurim tells us, that the Parshas says to us, is that Shlach l'cha anoshim, that be a chacham. Because if you're a chacham, you won't fail like the Meraglim, like the spies did. If you're a chacham, if you're perceptive, if you're able to see deeper than the surface, if you're able to read the realities, if you're able to be honest with yourself and to be able to see that, you will see beauty and you will see amazing things. This is taught us every single day of our lives. Every single day of our lives, that how many times do we feel things, we build it up in our minds, is so negative and it's so bad. And if we just would open our eyes and look at the situation honestly, analyze it honestly, we would see it in a totally, completely different way. And we would realize that it's a situation of bracha, not a situation of tragedy and disaster, not something that we have to worry so much about. All we have to do is just be Shlach l'cha anoshim. Take the last three letters. Go behind. See it at the end of each word. You won't see it so clear, but you will if you open your eyes. And when you open your eyes, when you open the Parsha of Shabbos, that is going to jump out at you, chacham. That word is going to jump off the page, going to hit you in the face, which it would never have had you not been thinking that way. If we think that we're going to think that we want to see beyond the surface, if we think that we want to see and understand and analyze what's really going on, we'll see such amazing things, such beautiful brachas, such beautiful things happening to us. We'll see people that are doing beautiful things instead of looking at it in such a negative way. We'll see events that are so amazing instead of looking at them and finding all the negativity and all the things that are wrong. Just be a chacham. All we have to be is just a little smart. Smart doesn't mean to learn another book. Smart doesn't mean quote another sage. Smart means look beyond the surface. Be honest. Be objective. Analyze the world with open eyes. And it is unbelievable the kind of brachos, the kind of blessings we will feel and realize are being showered on us every single minute of every single day. We should have a beautiful, wonderful, amazing Shabbos. Walk into Shabbos not the way the spies walked into Israel. Walk into Shabbos saying, I'm going to see treasures this Shabbos. I'm going to find things in this Shabbos that I never imagined I was going to find. Keep your eyes open. Walk in that way, and this will be the most beautiful and glorious Shabbos that you can imagine. A good Shabbos.